So, picture this. It's 2025, and the Department of Justice just goes on this massive crackdown against crypto fraud. And yeah, it totally rattled the market. But honestly, the real story, the surprising part, is what happened after all that chaos.
You know, for years, this has been the big boogeyman, right? The question every crypto investor has had in the back of their mind. Is regulation going to be the thing that just kills crypto? Well, 2025 gave us a pretty clear answer to that.
And let's be real, this wasn't some soft warning. This was like a declaration of war. The gloves were off. The DOJ started going after all the scammers, the fraudsters, the bad actors plaguing the space. So, okay, let's get into it and see how this all played out. First things first, to really get why the DOJ felt they had to step in, you got to understand what the crypto world was like back then. For the longest time, it really was the Wild West. I mean, huge opportunities for sure, but also just so much unchecked risk.
And an environment like that, it's basically a perfect breeding ground for fraud. We're talking about all kinds of stuff like wash trading to create fake hype, classic Ponzi schemes just dressed up in new crypto clothing, projects that were just straight up lying about what they could do, and yeah, just flat out scams meant to drain your wallet in a heartbeat.
So this is where the Department of Justice comes into the picture. They saw all this fraud just running wild and basically said, okay, enough is enough. They decided they had to step in hard to protect everyday investors and, frankly, the entire market.
And it's kind of wild how common some of this stuff was. Take wash trading, for example. It's a pretty simple trick when you break it down. Basically, someone just buys and sells the same asset to themselves over and over and over. It creates this totally fake buzz, this illusion of huge trading volume that tricks real investors into thinking, whoa, this is hot. I need to get in on this.
So, the DOJ starts dropping these huge, high-profile indictments. It's like they were putting up wanted posters for all the bad guys. And this sent an absolute shockwave through the industry. The message was loud and clear. The party's over. The days of doing whatever you want with no consequences, gone. And their official goals were actually super clear. This was never about destroying crypto. It was all about protecting regular people. The ones putting their hard-earned cash on the line. It was about rebuilding trust and making it crystal clear that if you break the law, you're going to face the music.
Okay, so how did the market take all this news? Well, what happened next was almost like a movie plot. First, you had the big shock, a really sharp, painful drop. But what came after that was a recovery that was honestly surprisingly strong.
The immediate reaction? Oh, it was pure panic. As soon as the news about these indictments hit, you just saw fear, uncertainty, and doubt FUD, right? Just wash over the markets. Volatility went through the roof, prices started to tank, it was a race for the exits.
And you can see the impact right here. Just look at that sharp nosedive for the tokens that were directly tied to these indicted projects. I mean, they got hit the absolute hardest. Investor confidence just vanished overnight.
But then, something really interesting happened. Once the initial shock started to fade, the market's perspective began to shift. People started seeing this not as an attack on crypto, but as, well, a much-needed cleanup. The conversation changed from, oh no, we're all doomed, to, hey, maybe this is good for our long-term health.
And this caused a huge shift in how people invested. The days of just throwing money at the next big thing based on pure hype, they started to fade. Instead, investors began rewarding projects that were actually transparent, the ones with clear rules and a real commitment to playing by them.
Which brings us to the most important question, right? What does all this mean for you as an investor today? Because what came out of this whole thing was basically a brand new playbook for how to succeed in crypto.
And this new playbook is pretty straightforward. Number one, you have to do your own research. DYOR isn't just a meme, it's essential. The trust me bro days are long gone. Number two, look for transparency. You want to see projects with clear goals, clear governance, projects that aren't hiding anything. And number three, keep up with compliance. You've got to understand the rules of the road now. It's a huge part of managing your risk.
So when you take a step back and look at the big picture, you see that the DOJ's actions didn't kill crypto at all. Not even close. What they actually did was help create a new, more mature, more stable foundation for the whole industry.
And this really gets to the heart of it. For so long, the crypto world was terrified of regulation. But the big lesson from 2025 is that good, smart regulation isn't the enemy. It's actually the foundation you need if you want to build something that's going to last.
I mean, look at this comparison. It really sums up the whole journey. We've moved from a market that was all about hype to one that values transparency. From a super high-risk gamble
to an ecosystem focused on real, sustainable growth. And from a lawless free-for-all to an industry that actually understands that compliance is important.
At the end of the day, the story of 2025 is really the story of an industry growing up. It had to. The Wild West days are behind us, and what's emerging is a new, more stable frontier. So the only question left to ask is, are you ready for what's next?
Subscribe and visit Web3 Newswire for more updates on ETFs.